As many of you guys know, the Cleveland Cavaliers are at the top of the Eastern Conference with a current record of 33-4, which paces them about 6.5 games up on the team that's favored to be the winners of this year's NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics, who are 27-11. But even though we've come to recognize that the Western Conference has a deeper field and deeper battle of competition and may be the superior conference in a head-to-head clash, this particular roster has been undefeated against the Western Conference, capitalized and capped off by their most recent win against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were, in my opinion, the team to come out of the Western Conference. If you're new to the channel, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Go in and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And we're going to go ahead and break down exactly why the Cleveland Cavaliers are the juggernaut that they are and where we could see them going at the end of this season. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this one. We're talking about a team that is 14th overall in the number of field goals that they take. However, they are first in the ones made. They're also first in three-point percentage, despite being 5th overall in attempts. And of course, they're 3rd overall in makes. That means that this team is incredibly offensively efficient. But the reason why they've been able to survive on defense has been the combination of Jarrett Allen, Isaac Okoro, and Evan Mobley on defense, despite having small perimeter guard play from Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And many people can scrutinize Mitchell, be saying that, offensively, he's very fast, he's really quick, but they don't see that same level of intensity on defense. Well, this season, I would say that he scaled it back a little bit offensively to allow guys like Darius Garland and Evan Mobley to step up and become new players in their own rights, while also giving himself a little bit more opportunity on defense to showcase that he's not a slouch, and just like Darius Garland may not be the tallest, they can both be pretty pesky when they want to be. The top 3 categories that all analysts like to pay attention to are the leaders in points, rebounds, and assists, and for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're led by 3 separate players, but also 3 extremely integral pieces to their roster. The points is led with 22.9 by Donovan Mitchell, rebounds by Jarrett Allen with 10.2, and Darius Garland with 6.7 in the assist category. They shoot 50.5% from the field on just 89.6 field goal attempts, and also managed to shoot 40.5% from three-point range on 40.4 three-point attempts, which is an incredibly large amount. And the fact that they can average over 40% as a team on such a large shot volume can only mean one thing: the players cohesively as an entire roster know how to shoot the basketball. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. And if I were to say that, even that feels like it's doing them some level of injustice, because there's legitimately 8 guys that are viable three-point threats on any particular night. You have Isaac Okoro with 2.7 three-point attempts a night, Evan Mobley with 2.8, Ty Jerome with 3.2, Caris LeVert with 4.1, Dean Wade with 4.2, Georges Niang with 4.4, Sam Merrill with 5.1, Max Strus with 5.4, and of course Darius Garland with 6.8, and Donovan Mitchell with a whopping 9.2 three-pointers per game. I just listed off 10 different players, and of those 10, 6 shoot above 41% from three-point range. Not to be outdone by the fact that their lowest viable three-point threat is Sam Merrill, shooting on the upper end with 5.1 three-point attempts per game, but he's hitting it on still a respectable 34.6% clip. Now, if we go on our way up the scale, we see Dean Wade with 37.3% shooting from three-point range, then Georges Niang with 38.7, then Max Strus with 38.8. Then you have Ty Jerome starting out your 41 and up club with 41.2, then Okoro with 44.8, Caris LeVert with 44.5%, Donovan Mitchell with 41%, Evan Mobley with 41.4%, and Darius Garland with 43.3%. When you put all of that together, you realize that this team as an entire cohesive unit is the deepest three-point shooting team in the league, and that we've ever seen in NBA history, to be quite honest. Yes, you can talk about the Splash Bros back when the prime Golden State Warriors run was a dynasty, even when they added in the likes of one Kevin Durant. But even then, you're not talking about an extremely deep 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that can shoot threes. This is a legitimate team that has 10 guys that can give you decent production from three-point range on a night in, night out basis. Even if 1 or 2 people aren't hitting, do you trust that the other 8 aren't? Do you trust that your top 6, all 6 are going to go completely cold? It's possible, but at 33-4, is that really a viable option for most teams to bank on? And there's no great coverage to run to really get these guys to slow down and stop, because you find yourself into a world where, yes, Donovan Mitchell is taking a step back off the gas to allow Evan Mobley and Darius Garland to take a step up, but he can still turn on the gas at the drop of a hat. And even with him shooting 9 3-point attempts per game, he's shooting 41%. So it's not as to say he's settling on jumpers and they're bailing out defenses, because they're not by any stretch of the imagination. However, we need to go ahead and, instead of focusing in on Donovan Mitchell because he does get his fair share of love, let's focus on the Evan Mobleys and the Darius Garlands of the world, because they are important in their own rights. You have Evan Mobley this season taking that next step up as an offensive star, improving his handle and his passing capability while putting himself at averages of 19 points, 8.8 rebounds, 3.1 assists, and 1.4 blocks per game, while shooting 57.4% from the field and that 41.4% from three-point range, as I said before, on almost 3 attempts. He also shoots a respectable 77.5% from the free throw line and has a true shooting percentage of 65.3%. Now, we already understood that he is a viable rim protecting presence. Yes, alongside Jarrett Allen, they create the mainstay Twin Towers lineup that a lot of teams have trouble dealing with, because you have Jarrett Allen, and while he doesn't have the greatest, most rounded out offensive bag about himself, he still can hit you with a post hook. He still rolls to the rim and finishes lobs. He can still do a quick back down and get a little hook shot, a post hook to go in. He does have a little bit of wiggle room in his game, and because he doesn't demand the ball to be effective and to screen and roll, it opens up things for a lot of other guys to have their opportunities to shoot threes. And even he has become a slightly better passer in the event that he finds himself getting either doubled down in the paint, or if he doesn't see a world where he can make that shot, he can easily dish it out to one of his myriad of shooters that will inevitably be on the floor at any one point in time. Evan Mobley hasn't just taken a step forward from a shooting and a handling and a passing standpoint, but also the way the scheme runs a lot of times. He does a lot of backdoor cuts. He does a lot of movement, especially when the polarity of the offense is focused more so on Darius Garland or on Donovan Mitchell, depending on what play and who's really got the hot hand. He often finds himself being able to back cut from the corner or slide into somebody's blind spot when he's on the wing. And even though he's shooting 41% from the three, yes, a significant number of those are wide open because a lot of teams haven't really decided to respect it, because, again, it's only 2.8 field goal attempts per game that he's actually shooting those at, but at the same time, he's still hitting them. And it puts them into a world where if you want to sit there and put him in a pick and pop situation, that's a viable shot for him. If you want to see a screen and roll between him and Darius Garland, or him and literally any other guard on the team, especially Donovan Mitchell, both of them can pop, both of them can go down to the rim and play two-man games. And if you have Jarrett Allen on the floor as well, that puts you into a bind if you're an opposing team that has a one strong big lineup, because he can't overextend himself. He can't overhelp. He can't afford to play both people, and you just have to trust that everybody else is going to do their job against the other one, which hasn't fared well, clearly judging by the numbers. Looking at Darius Garland, many people felt like after last season, because of course, injuries, he also wasn't really showing any signs of growth in his game. He seemed a little bit stagnant. He didn't really have any expectations for where people thought he could go next. Yes, they understood he's undersized defensively. He could still be pesky. He still gives a great deal of effort on that side of the ball. But it was like offensively, him and Donovan Mitchell, aren't they a little too redundant? Don't they do the exact same thing? Like, yes, you can say maybe Darius is a better passer, but what else? They play the exact same role. They're essentially the same height. They're both the same level of defensive liability. There's a ceiling that is very apparent. And with these injuries, where does he go next? But this season, thanks to Donovan Mitchell giving him the opportunity to flourish in his own right, Darius Garland has taken the reins by storm and done the most with his opportunities, to the tune of 21 points, 2.6 rebounds, and 6.7 assists to go along with 1.1 steals. And while those don't necessarily jump off the page as numbers individually, you also have to remember the type of game that he plays. He's currently also on pace to join the 50-40-90 club, as he's currently shooting 50% from the field, 43.3% from three-point range, and 91.5% from the free throw line, leading to a 63.4% true shooting percentage. The numbers don't do Darius Garland as much justice as they would give a lot of other guys, because the reason why they're able to cohesively bend the game to their wills isn't just because, oh, he's taking a step forward, oh, they can both shoot the ball really efficiency, especially on the floor with the rest of their teammates and the spacing that they have available to them. No, it's the type of bag that he works with. He's not super athletic. He's not super bouncy like Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is a straight line driver. He gets to his bucket how he wants to, and either you're going to stop him or you're going to give it to him. With Darius Garland, he's a little bit more of a bob and weaver, a little bit more sneaky, a little bit more strategic with the way that he attacks. He likes to dip and dive in between screening actions, and he doesn't really find himself into a lot of situations where he's extremely cornered. And just when you think he's cornered, he can still snake out, find an easy man, either in a dump-off situation or kicking it out to the corner, because he knows where his shooters are always going to be at any place in time. His floater has always been reliable. Getting to the rim, he's able to finish. And while he's not going to sit there and put anybody on a poster every now and then, he still has the ability to showcase a great deal of quickness to get off his layups when it's necessary. Now, this team did ultimately end up losing to the Boston Celtics earlier on this season. I believe it was 127 to 130, so there's not too much there to be concerned about in my personal point of view. Yes, a lot of people are using the Boston Celtics as the measuring stick for the league, and they have their injuries here and there, but by and large, they are going to go deep in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. But a lot of people, I don't think, are giving Cleveland the genuine credit that they deserve, because on their 15-game stretch where they started out the season 15-0, they weren't having any crazy runs. They weren't having any crazy games against any great teams. A lot of people said that their opponents were rather easy, and the way that they were going about winning their games, yes, it was impressive, but if you're doing it against teams like your Charlotte Hornets of the world that are in basketball purgatory in their own right, or the Washington Wizards, there's not really much to be said about that. We can't really grade you on that, because we already know that other team is either already bad or they're trying to be bad in the event of tanking. So to use that as the measuring stick isn't necessarily fair. But on their most recent run, as I said at the beginning of the video, with them putting together an 11-0 stretch this season thus far against Western Conference opponents, they've also only lost 1 out of their last 17 games, which is a significant margin. And more recently, they've been able to beat the Boston Celtics, beat the Milwaukee Bucks, beat the Denver Nuggets 2 separate times, and most importantly, as I referenced before, beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I believe will be coming out of the Western Conference. So when you string that together and see that they're not necessarily faltering even after their initial loss against the Boston Celtics, they still came back, they're still handing teams daily and weekly losses, it builds them up to be an expected perennial deep playoff run kind of team. And maybe you feel like the Boston Celtics have the greater level of chemistry because they won the championship last year. That's fair to say. And there could be injuries in line for any team in the league, and there could be any sort of situation underlying. But the way Kenny Atkinson has these guys playing, and the fact that so many guys can be so effective on any night-by-night basis, it's hard for me to bet against the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. Many people will say that they need to have an alpha dog. They need to have that one top 10, top 15 player that can effectively push you over the edge. When somebody's shot isn't falling, when a bunch of guys' shots aren't falling, and you guys just can't buy a basket, who's going to be your LeBron James? Who's going to be your Kevin Durant? Who's going to be your Stephen Curry? Who's going to be that leader that pushes you over the edge when you need the most out of them because there's nothing left in your gas tank? And many people could say that they just quite simply don't have one. They're relying on a more low-key version of the power of friendship that the New York Knicks kind of have, and the Boston Celtics with their cohesive unit. And a lot of people won't talk about it, but the effectiveness of it is just uncanny and second to none. And of course, the Cleveland Cavaliers aren't in a big market, so they're not going to get the greatest level of love and attention that they deserve. But just as much as I believe the Boston Celtics deserve their dues, this team that is 6.5 games above them definitely deserves their own flowers in their own right. On the road to, might I add, perhaps 70 games winning in a season. With that being said, though, it's your boy Ray Hoops. If you're new to the channel and you like this video and made it this far, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, or drop a donation or become a member to help the channel out and get the videos faster than anybody else. With that being said, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're in the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.